darkest hour, wake thy power, earthly and divine. Burn and brew with Coven true, and glory shall be thine.
Hey friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator, of sorts, here on YouTube and several other platforms as well. So if you're interested in following me and my antics elsewhere, feel free to check out the links down below in the description. And if you are a returning subscriber, it's really good to see you back here. Thank you for coming back. Your support really does mean the world to me. So if you could like this video, share this video, and if you like what I have to say, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you hit the bell so that way you can stay notified every single time I upload. This YouTuber shit is like really weird, and I low-key kind of hate it, I'm not gonna lie. I was talking to a friend and a witchy sibling, if you will, within our tradition of witchcraft, which would be the American traditional folkloric tradition. I think it's in year 2 of our traditions training, but basically talking about like herbs and talking about crystals, and we are assigned to basically pick our top 10 favorite herbs to work with, and also like our top 10 favorite crystals to work with. And in this video, I want to talk about my top 10 and why I picked what I picked. Okay, so editing jazz here. I'm gonna come up a lot, probably, I think, in this video. I think it's important also to just like mention that in this video, I'm gonna talk about the herbs, not the crystals. If you would like me to do a top 10 crystal video, just comment down below and let me know. But in this video, I'm gonna talk about the herbs, right? Also, like, I know that top 10 witchy whatever is a very popular and very trending sort of topic here on Beyonce's internet. And the title of this video might sound kind of clickbaity, but my intention really is genuine, because as traditional witches, like, of course we use herbs, and as traditional witches, we can use crystals too. Crystals kind of have like a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, just like per the New Age, but I don't think that they are without a place in traditional witchcraft. So I'm happy to share that assignment with you guys if you would like me to talk about my top 10 favorite crystals. But again, just comment down below and let me know. I am currently in my 3rd year of this particular type of training, and this is a 2nd year assignment, but I'm referencing it because I was inspired by a conversation from a friend recently. So I just want to make it known that, again, I'm coming from like the perspective of an initiate of the American traditional folkloric background. So your mileage, if you are not in that tradition, will greatly vary. Your mileage, if you are not a Midwestern American witch, will also probably greatly vary, and that's okay. And I would love to encourage you to make a video response to this and tell me if you had to recommend 10 herbs for any witch to explore working with, what 10 herbs would they be and why? I would love to hear, so comment down below and let me know, or if you would make a video response, I would love to hear your words. So the first herb that I have here in the list would be Datura, and I did include Datura Dancer in some of my recently published work, Ambrosia's Book of Witchflight, in the Spirit Codex, but also Ambrosia's Book of Spirits, or the Lesser Liber Spiritus. Datura does have some toxic effects, specifically Datura stramonium most often can include visual and auditory hallucinations, confusion or vomiting, and agitation. All of this is kind of the side effect of the medicine of this particular plant. I have used Datura as a spirit familiar, and I have also used Datura when making nasal inhalant smoke, which I include a recipe of that in my books. This can really aid in psychic visions, help with psychic enhancement, abysmal walking as well when used in like ceremonial ritual. I know that our coven does. So this would very much be probably my top of my top 10. So my next herb would be our beloved valerian, which is probably one of my like absolute favorite herbs as someone who is very neurospicy. Valerian is a natural anxiety reliever. It's also a staple in like a basic sleepy time tea recipe. Most of those recipes call for chamomile and valerian. Valerian does smell a bit like feet, but also maybe I'm just weird, and because I need that medicine, that pungent odor smells good to me. I feel like if you have issues with like anxiety or insomnia, valerian and chamomile, as kind of like a honorary mention, would both be herbs that I would strongly recommend. Valerian can also help a lot with pain and can also assist in dream work as well. So for my third top recommended herb, it would be mugwort. Mugwort is a very common, very popular favorite herb amongst witches. I really like mugwort specifically for dreams and visions. It's also very powerful as an aid in witch flight. There are different grimoires that use like non-toxic flying ointments that utilize this specific herb. You can also like nasally inhale it. Follow like your doctor's recommendations. I mean, I'm not a doctor and I can't medically advise you, but I have used this herb in a nasal inhalant, and it's been just fine. I do know that you should also be careful of using this if it comes to like fertility issues, or also like if you're breastfeeding, you might want to use this herb with caution. It's a very powerful psychic aid. And in our tradition, we also use mugwort in our Sabbath wine, which is a particular blend that we use for magic, if you will. So for the next one, I love clove. First of all, for those of you that were like goth girlies, don't we all love a clove cigar or a clove cigarette? The smell of that smells like magic to me. Clove is like a quintessential herb for protection. Whole cloves kind of look like a nail, and we can utilize that when we make, like, for example, pomanders, where we nail the clove into the orange. So very protective, also very good for like reversal magic or uncrossing. Clove overall is just like my favorite go-to protection herb. Also, it tastes delicious. So number 5 for me is probably going to hit home with a lot of Midwest witches. Number 5 is corn. And again, as a witch that lives in the Midwest, more specifically Indiana, which is known as the land of corn, connecting with the spirit of this plant feels like connecting with the land. I did include this spirit in some of my recently published books, Ambrosia's Book of Witch Flight, also Ambrosia's Book of Spirits. The corn has been depicted as a sort of like motherly, maternal figure in some of our native lore. And I think as a trad witch, I connect with that, but I also see the corn spirit appearing in eldritch ways as well. Those of you who have wandered through a cornfield know what I'm talking about. as trad witches, we use the corn husk to make poppet dolls. It's a very powerful way of creating like spirit vessels or using sympathetic magic. Also, corn is very much like a filler when it comes to food. There's not a ton of nutrition that comes from the corn itself, but it is very filling. So, for those of us that are witches of cotton and not of silk, it can definitely get those through some hard times. Corn is easily one of my most favorite herbs, quote unquote, if you will. So, number 6 would be the Rose of Jericho. This is known as like the resurrection plant, as they die and they shrivel up. They turn into a brownish sort of color. And then when they are watered, they actually come back to life and they become rich and green with like whitish blooms. The Rose of Jericho, to my knowledge, is not really growing in my area, but because I'm in the Midwest and we're kind of part of that Bible Belt, the Rose of Jericho is prominent throughout like folk practices of my region. I believe also Appalachia as well. It's very common to use this herb in like floor washes and door washes, or for bringing in wealth and money, or love, lust, sex. Overall, this is like a pretty common household plant to keep. Most like American trad witches that I know, including myself, will water this plant and bring it back to life around the day before, day of, or day after the full moon. And it's also not uncommon to like stick coins inside of it. And so they like charge there for a full lunar cycle, and then at the next full moon when you water it, you would take those coins and put them in your wallet to like attract money towards you. There's a lot of like different folk practices, but the Rose of Jericho for sure is number 6 for me. So again, kind of like the Rose of Jericho, number 7 doesn't really like just grow wildly here where I live, but aloe vera is like a classic kitchen witch's ally, used to treat burns. And also you can take like the goop from the aloe vera and make a really good healing cream or healing ointment. Also very good in like beauty spells as well. Aloe vera is worth being mentioned. As someone who cooks, it's nice to have this in the kitchen, because when you burn yourself or bless yourself through the power of Hestia, having an aloe vera around is a godsend. Okay, this next one, garlic. I mean, come on, garlic is like, she's that girl. She's technically taking up like the 8th spot in my list, but I mean, she doesn't need to be number 1 or number 2. She knows who she is. Garlic is so versatile, great in cooking, adds hella flavor to just about everything. Garlic is also like very protective, very good at warding against illness or the evil eye, cleansing for both body and spirit. There's a lot of folklore about garlic. You don't need me to tell you about her. So number 9 would be dandelion, and I don't know if people outside of the Midwest can connect or relate with this herb. It's seen as like a quote-unquote weed where we are. However, dandelion, in my opinion, could very much be like a classic American folkloric aileron or plant spirit, like familial ally. All parts of the dandelion are edible, and even like relatively early American pioneers and settlers would eat the dandelion in order to sustain themselves. This specific plant is useful for healing spells, as all parts of the plant can also aid in headaches and digestion. The root, the leaves, the bud, all of it can be added to teas. Also, you can make like dandelion fritters or dandelion greens. So, in general, if you are an American witch or if you are in the Midwest where dandelion grows, I strongly encourage you to really check out the magical properties and the folkloric and medicinal properties of this plant. I've made a Book of Shadows page that's available on my Patreon that details this. If you are curious, there is a link down below. So, number 10. Plant rosemary by your garden gate. For all of you practical magic girlies, rosemary, I have to mention in my top 10. It's also a very powerful plant of like protection. I've mentioned a couple of other alternatives earlier, but also exorcism and banishing, which is different than protection because some things that are protective can just like ward against. I feel like rosemary is really good for actually getting rid of an issue once it's already present. Also, it tastes really good as well, and it smells good, and you can make delightful rosemary bundles yourself at home. I encourage you to grow this herb in like your kitchen window or in a potted situation on your porch, however you can. Curate yourself some rosemary. You will not regret building a relationship with this herb. Okay, so editing jazz here again. I do have a couple of honorable mentions. Black pepper, cane sugar, and sea salt. There is not a lot that you can't do with those three. I like to call them like the holy trinity of the ATW. Pepper, salt, sugar. Okay? Pepper can be very malefic. Pepper can be very protective. Salt can be very cleansing or malefic. Or healing. And sugar can be really good for like attracting, but also for glamour. So I'm just going to leave you with that. Salt, pepper, sugar. Think about the ways that you can use those three things in your magic. Okay? Think about it. They're very accessible, they're very affordable, and they're very powerful, honestly. I hope that this video was helpful. And again, I would love to hear from you. If you had to pick 10 herbs that you would recommend to a witch to explore working with, what 10 herbs would you pick? And bonus points if you can relate it back to your specific genus loci, wherever you are. Until next time, friends, blessed be, and I will see you in hell. Bye.
The howling whispers tear at the scars, leaving a broken and vandalized jar. The soul ignited and burns as a flame, turns all to ash with its village to blame. Crooked finger bent with intent, sending confusion and chaos.